So let's keep going on this fella, on this Navi warrior. Okay. Yeah, we got. Okay. The thing that's bugging me the most. Oh, okay, so I went to the trouble of finding some hair or some hair. It's not really reference, right? It's actual source photography. So I got that. Found this great ponytail. Uh, Source photography. So we're gonna give him his hairdo. Oh, we gotta do the ears. But I also found some good. I think I have. Where's my lions? Yeah. So I found some lions. I don't know what kind of ears. We're gonna have to work on his ears. Like, what kind of animal? It's almost like a deer. It's like ears from a deer. You know what? I'll let you guys figure that out. Hopefully, I'm showing you enough stuff and some cool pro tips that at least you'll be able to use your own brilliant minds to figure out how to make some ears that look real, look authentic. Okay, first thing though that's bugging me, and then we're going to have to work on the guy's face, right? So, first thing that's bugging me though is lighting, because we've got some pretty tame highlights here. These highlights are very white if I, kind of check my color picker here. See how white those are? They're very desaturated and they're pretty bright. These are bright, but they're super saturated, right? They're still very much in the blue chrome area. This is not. So we're going to have to, and then the shadow sides are really desaturated blacks. Actually, they're saturated blues, dark blues. So these are kind of okay. But we gotta fix the photography here so it matches. So I'm going to, just like kind of we did with we're going to use some adjustment layers and masking techniques, just sort of like we did, not sort of, exactly, identically, like we did with the weapon. So let's create a curves adjustment layer. Oh, I should put that in my adjustments. Okay, well, we'll do that in a minute. And actually, we want to blow out, we want some pretty desaturated whites. Okay, so I'm going to drop this in our adjustments folder. And actually, I gotta arrange this better. So we're gonna take all of this reference material here, and I'm going to group this. Actually, source material. I'm going to call this source. Yeah, and I'm going to pull this out of that. Drop it underneath our dude. Do that. Yeah, and eventually you'll pull all this stuff out of there, right? Okay, so with this adjustment layer, these are going to be our highlights, but obviously we don't want the whole thing washed out. So right now the layer mask is white, so the effect is being revealed across the entire document. We want to mask out almost all of the effect and only reveal the lighting effect in the areas that we want the lighting effect to be revealed. All right, so click on the thumbnail of the layer mask, and we want to make it black. I'm going to hit Control M for my curves, grab this control vertices on the white portion of the histogram and drop it down to the black. And so you'll notice now that hit OK, and you'll notice that our mask went black. Now, once again, if you've got a mouse, we can do it this way. So you'll use your lasso tool, feather it to 3 to 5 pixels, and we're going to try and find the highlight shapes that are most rational for the topology of this guy's body. And we're going to hit Control M again to invoke our curves, and we're going to lighten. See how that is coming up like that, right? Aha, see, so now we've got some highlights. And you can kind of just follow. Now, these highlights are not going, I'm not going to highlight his whole head, right? If you'll look at our Navi character, just the uppermost, highest points of his anatomy are catching the brightest highlight. So you want to kind of find the highest most raised portion of his anatomy. And these selection techniques that I'm using, you will have you're familiar with because you've already done the lynda.com tutorials on selections and things like that. And what I'm doing is I'm just revealing that effect by creating a white or lighter area in our layer mask in the shape of, right, our highlights. And it's not as good as this because you don't have a brush. Now, if you had a brush, you could impart some transfer on your brush setting, which would allow you to have full pressure sensitivity control over opacity. And you can actually come in and paint this in. Although, for some of you guys, this would still be hard to do. But the pro knows. But, you know, once again, this is an introduction. I want you to try your best. You got to try hard. You only learn if you try hard. That's the only way you have a chance of getting this right. So don't shortchange yourself, right? Give yourself a fighting chance to succeed. So that's already looking pretty good. Now, once again, I'm just trying to, so it's a shape thing, right? Like the highlight, because it conforms to the topology of the human form in this case, it's going to assume a certain shape because the shape of the highlight is dictated by the three-dimensional nature of the form, in this case the human body, this man's body. And so I am being careful to make sure that my shapes, the shapes of my highlights and the intensity of my highlight are accurately portray the three-dimensional nature of this man's body. And this is just an adjustment layer. So see how cool that is, right? And I'm just, yeah, and you're going to have a struggle with this because you're probably going to push these highlights too bright if you're like I was when I was at your stage in my artistic development. You're going to struggle to know exactly how bright to make them and exactly what shapes to make. But, you know, got to start somewhere. And like I said, I'm grading relative to your, to the sort of average where somebody at your skill level should be at your stage of artistic development, etc. So I'm not going to evaluate your performance as if you were a working professional, of course, but as a student, you know, and most of you guys, this is probably the first time you've attempted to do anything like this anyway. So I'm going to make this even brighter. Maybe not. That's fine the way it is. Okay, let's do the same thing for our shadows. So again, we're going to create another adjustment layer, another curves, but this time we're going to take the white control point, the control point that deals with the highest value, the lightest values, the highlights, and we're going to crank that down. And this is going to be our shadows. Now once again, I have not masked out. There's nothing masking out this effect at all, so it's going to affect the entire layer. And I'm going to hit Control-I to invert that. And we're going to go ahead and same thing, right? I'm looking at shapes, and once again, you can use your lasso tool for the mouse users. And we're going to, with a feather radius, perhaps a 6-pixel feather radius is probably the best. And we're just going to try and find the accurate shape of that shadow. Again, we'll invoke the curves menu, and this time we want to again want to make a light. We want to add a light area to our mask because the light area will reveal the effect, and in this case our effect is our shadows. So making a light area in the mask will make a dark area on the photo. That's not confusing, is it? And I'm just going to go ahead and we'll just, with your mouse, you're just going to have to go, and I hit Control-H to hide so I don't see those little marching ants, as it were. See how that darkens that? That really makes it feel. Well, now we're getting closer to a similar lighting effect. That is, in this case, a much more um, contrasty lighting effect on our, So in other words, I'll restate that the lighting effect on this is a higher contrast than on our source imagery. So we're trying to reproduce that effect. Let me hide my, or not effect, but reproduce that same lighting condition on this, as we see over here. Now I've actually darkened it in an area I don't want to darken. So lasso tool, the reason why this is happening here is because I had a feather on my lasso tool. So we're going to want to fix that. So I'm going to take off the feather. I'm going to set the feather radius to 0 pixels. And we're just going to select this area here. Carefully select it. And hit Control M, and I'm going to darken to, I'm going to darken to mask that out. Okay. All right. So that's that. Now let's add some, I'm going to fix his eyes. Oh, we need to add some pinkies to his lips because we got a little bit of pink here. And once again, you guys will need to add ears, and I'll do eyes. You'll have to figure out the nose. The nose is a cat nose or a dog nose, probably more like a cat. So let's add some pinkies to the lips. So we're going to add a new layer. I'm going to set that layer to blend mode to color. And in my color picker, I'm going to select a pink tone. And if we're doing our, and the pinky just kind of lives right in here. You don't want to like do the whole lips and make him like the Joker, because that would look stupid. You'll notice in our style guide, there's just a hint of pink, really just on the bottom of this, the highlight area of his lip, and that's going to need to be feathered a little bit if you're using your mouse. So I think in this case, since it's a small area that we're going to affect, just that small portion of his lip, I'm going to feather that at a fairly low pixel count, about 3 pixels. And with your mouse, you'll come in and paint that in. That's really not working as color. Let's just do normal. There we go. That's a little better. We'll just kick it. We got to find a pink that. It's pinky. Maybe that's a little too pink. We could take the opacity down too. There we go. That's better. All right, let's give him some cat eyes. Luckily, I have some cat eyes here. Look at, and see, these are the eyes. They're really beautiful eyes. They are cat eyes. They really are. So let's. They've got the eyes themselves are cat eyes, but the lids are human lids. So we're really going to have to do some work at compositing this. I'm going to take my cat eyeball here. I've got a 3 pixel feather radius on this selection. I only want about a 1. I don't want to grab too much. I just want the eyeball itself. I don't need, because we need it. We're going to have to figure out a way to do, and I honestly am trying to figure out the best way to do. I think we're going to have to get a big eyeball picture. So we just get the eyelids, right? We just want the eyelids in this case. So we're going to get on top of our dude here. We're going to paste that into dude. And I might create a group called dude, the dude group, because he's a dude. And we're going to bring, we're going to put, oh, we don't want, we're going to have to actually, because I don't want that blue, right? And we've got our blue here. Let's just drag this on above our blue layer. Put it up here. Ooh, he looks cool already. And it's going to have to be kind of big because they have big eyes. So these lovely big eyes. And we could maybe. Woo! That's crazy looking. Look at him. He looks creepy as hell. But that's what they're like. Okay, so to bring this down. And I'm going to grab this one, this other eye here, because it's actually kind of in perspective, which is pretty good. Although this guy's got a head-on shot, we might have to adjust that other eye. We'll paste that in, so they come in on a separate layer. And we're going to adjust it. Ooh, that's so creepy looking, man. Ooh. We're gonna have to give this guy some eyelids. Otherwise, he's just gonna look funny. Yeah. I probably don't want them too close together either. All right. Okay. And I think part of it, yeah, and I think he's a bit cross-eyed, so I'm I'm actually just gonna take this little black dot and I'm gonna scoot it over a little bit and make it a little bit bigger. And I think the eyes are not quite this orange. And I think I'm going to take this and move it over. Oh, got to get on the right layer. Scoot it over and make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, and I think we're going to have to change that to a less orange to move it to a more yellow. So I'm going to invoke my hue saturation dialog box by hitting Control U. And we're going to, no, that's, oh, you know what? We need to put these eyes on the same layer. So clicking on layer 24, which I think is this left eye, and then Control clicking on layer 23, that'll select both at the same time. And then hit Control E, and that will mash the two selected layers together. And we're going to move this a little bit that way. Whew, man, that's still just, he is crazy. Yeah, I think I might darken that just a little bit. Yeah, it's a little better. And I think the thing that's creeping me out is these these really black upper eyelids. So I'm going to just erase some of that out. Oh, I wonder I've got, okay, so you've got your opacity set. You're going to have, yeah, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be, because you're using a mouse. So just be, pay attention to your opacity. And I'm just kind of like making it more of a reasonable sort of human eyeball shape as I'm erasing here. Taking out some of this black stuff. That's a little better. I think also we need to widen the nose, so let's see, let's grab our cat nose. Actually, I think what I'm going to need to do is just, we're going to have to go and find a cat nose online, so let's just Google cat face. Oh, cat face, yeah, that's what we want. This is a good one. Well, that's a painting. Then I'm not a painting. That's a good one because it's gray. Copy. Yeah, that's a cat. And their noses are unusual. They're not exactly cat. We're gonna have to. You're gonna have to kind of work on that. We're gonna have to do some surgery here, but. And I think I want to put this under source. But we're going to hit Control C to copy. I'm going to turn that off. And we're going to go back on top of our dude here. Paste that in. It's over here somewhere. There's our, oh, huh. Oh, what did I do? What did I copy on? I don't know. Let's try that again. Copy. And paste. There we go. There's our cat nose. And I'm just going to erase. Oh, I've got my caps lock on. And this nose is not quite right, right? Because like their nose is a little bit tighter and a little bit skinnier, so, and it's also not furry, but I think we can fix that. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to kind of erase out the areas I don't want. We'll also have to make it blue, but I think if I bring it over here, it should go blue, yeah. And then we're just going to kind of make it the right size. Yeah. And then I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to hit Control T, and we're going to squish it like that. And then I'm also going to darken it. And I might, yeah, that's a little better, but it's all furry, right? So let's use the let's see what happens if I blur this. So I'm just going to select that and hit filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Ah, that's better. That's too much. Oh, there we go. It's not bad. Holy crap, that kind of worked. Yeah, we're gonna have to deal with some highlights here. So let's add some highlights on our highlight layer. Yeah, and then darken that a little bit. Probably darken. Is that? Oh, his eyes are up here. I think we're gonna have to put the eyes here so we can get. Oh, yeah. This is our darken layer. I want to kind of darken that a little bit. Kind of get that nose to kind of get some 3 dimensions on the side, either side, by darkening. Yeah. His eyes still look goofy. I don't know. I'm gonna have to mess with those a little bit. Not sure what to do to get those eyes working. Maybe they're too close to each other. Maybe yeah, I think his eyes need to be further apart. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, that's it. The eyes got to sit a little bit further apart. Yeah, that's it. And I got a little bit of color there that I don't want. And we also need to give them some eyelids too. So yeah, that's better. Yeah. And let's go find. Let's just go look at eyes. Human eyes. Human eye. The human eye. Come on. All right. So I better use my mouse. Human eye. Aha. I want a male eye though, because I don't want a whole lot of eyelash. This is pretty good. Oh, women's eyes. There's men's eye. Let's see. Which one do I want? This one. Ah, that one probably good. Copy image. And I'm going to put that underneath my eyeballs, but on top of my dude. So we'll paste that in. Aha, just like that. And just going to erase everything around it. Going to take this out. So all I want is that eyelid. That's all I want. I need a human eyelid to go around those goofy looking cat eyes. Okay. And if I'm really good, I'll just sort of take that out. Yeah. Looks kind of creepy. Now I got eyelids, right? Control T. Oh, you know what? I'm going to hit my F key to expand my window to fill the entire screen. And we're just trying to get this to fit. Yeah. That is insane how good that works. Look at that. That is crazy. Doesn't it makes all the difference in the world. I'm going to add another layer mask on this because I want to, and you guys can set your opacity to a lower opacity because I kind of want to fuzz this out so that edge just blends really nicely. And I think I might blur this a little bit just to soften it a little. It's got some noise in the photography, so we're just going to blur that out a little bit. And I'm just continuing to kind of mask out. Man, that looks so good. It's crazy how well that works. Look at that. Dang, that worked really good. That's awesome. I think his nose looks funny too. It's got that black line around it. But their noses are kind of pink anyway, so we're going to have to. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this on the other side. So I'm just going to select it. Control-Alt will copy. Oh, I've got my mask layer selected. Oh, you know what? Because the mask, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten that mask because it works so well. I don't want to have to remask the other side. So Control-Alt will copy, and then Shift will constrain it on the horizontal, and then I want to flip it, right? So I'm going to hit Control-H to hide the crawling ant selection, hit Control-T, which will invoke my transform gizmo, right-click, and select Flip Horizontal. There we go. And now we can readjust that. Gee whiz, that works just so good. Huh. All right, and let's make his nose pink. Just down there where the cat thing is. We already have a pink layer, so let's just find that. It's right there. And it's going to have to be a darker pink. So I'm just selecting, because this part of his nose is actually in shadow. So we're going to use a darker pink. You know what? I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to kick this in and actually make it a dark pink. There we go. That's better. Ah, that's much better. Okay, and I could adjust the lighting a little bit more if I wanted to, but there he is, man. He's Na'vi. That dude is Na'vi as the day is long. Now let's do his hair. I have hair. I have dudes with hair. So let's pick a hairstyle. I like this guy's hairstyle right here. At least on the front. Let's turn the rest of these cats off for now so I can see what's going on. And we'll just, so we don't need, I just like the braided look this guy's got. It feels kind of tribal. So we're going to take this hair lasso tool and just kind of grab his haircut. I might, once this is selected, I'm going to hold down the Alt key and kind of remove some of this extraneous selection that I so carelessly grabbed. I should have been a little more careful. But with my Alt key, holding down my Alt key while I drag the selection, I'm actually subtracting, and I think I probably want to, well, I'm going to fuzz that out. Let's hit, so I'm on that layer with this dude, I'm on this dude's layer, Control-C to copy, turn him off, get back to our hair. Now we don't want the blue on his head, right? So we're going to have to go above the blue layer in, I guess adjustments. I'm just going to have to stick it in adjustments. And I'm going to bring this up. And we want it kind of brown. If I flip it, we're just going to have to adjust it. Well, I don't know. Maybe this Na'vi had brown hair. Maybe some Na'vi had brown hair. We'll just, maybe they do. And I'm going to right click and say warp. And we're going to kind of mash this so it sort of matches his hairline, or the kind of the positioning of his skull. And I think yeah, so this is kind of cool. Now this warp tool just functions by warping, right? And you just sort of click inside of this grid and kind of move it to mush it around. And this doesn't take long to figure out. You'll get this figured out pretty quick if you want to use this particular tool. All right, so that's cool. Hit enter. Yeah, that's kind of neat. That works pretty good. I think I do like the brown. So of the hair of the Na'vi, I don't want a black-haired Na'vi. It might be kind of cool to make it black. Let's see. Control M, taking the black part of my histogram and pushing it a little bit darker. That's cool. Now I've got this flesh tone here that makes it look like a tube. So layer mask, creating a layer mask with black selected. I'm going to mask out this other guy's skin. And just going to mask that out. take that out. So leave a little bit of this guy's the original model's hair, and I'm going to take this out. Cool. And then I think I'll erase. There's a little bit of the original model's hair poking through. It looks blue, so erase, and I'm just going to chop that out. Oop, got a little too aggressive. Now you're going to give him new ears, right? So that's okay. Cool. Now he's got Na'vi hair. It's black. He's got black hair. What the heck? It can be brown. This guy's got like a mohawk. It's kind of blackish. This has got those funky braids in it. And then where's my? Oh, where's that chick I had with the braids? Oh, I hid the layer. Now I think it's this one. No, that's that other dude. Come on, come on. Ah. I'm gonna have to turn them all on just to find that girl. Where was that braid? Oh, come on. Can't find the braid. You guys have to figure it out on your own. There's the braid. Yay. So let's select just, oh, turned off my reference. So we're gonna just be really careful. And I don't need all of this hair, so I'm just gonna kind of grab a little bit of it. And I'll clean up this selection as needed. I'm doing a kind of careful selection here, just to get this grabbed out of, and it's the wrong color too, so we're going to have to also color adjust the Control-C to copy. And I think I'm going to have it like hanging over his shoulder, just so I can see it. So back to his hair layer and paste, and we're going to. They would actually be living right about here, because it'd be in the middle of his head. So this is going to be, so actually we'll just imagine that this is like, and I kind of going to wrap around like so. And we're going to use that, I'm going to actually take a little bit more of, I'm going to create some more braid. Just the Control-T, I'm just going to expand that out just a little bit. The nice thing about braids is you can it's kind of a repeating pattern kind of deal, right? And I don't know if I want to bore you guys, but you know, you're going to have to come in and take out all that stuff. So we're also going to have to, and they had, you'll need to look and see, they have in the story, they have these weird like tendril, like I don't know what you call them, sensing organs that come out of there that allow them to interface with the fauna of Pandora, because these guys are kindred spirits of the native plants and animals. Okay, so anyway, I don't put that there. So do you guys remember the, and I'm just going to darken this again. Pull this down a little bit. There we go. And I might just go ahead and lock transparency up here. Make sure I click on my checkerboard to lock transparency with a little bit of black. And I'm just going to come in and you'll have your opacity set to a certain percentage. I want to keep some of those highlights, so you don't want it to be completely black. Okay. And I might just make that a little bit longer and a little bit fatter. And this looks a little funky and bumpy up here, so I'm just going to unlock my transparency, clean that silhouette up a little bit with my eraser. I'm just erasing, trying to keep that bumpy, braided silhouette there. And once I kind of get this where I want it, as far as its shape and whatnot, I'm going to use that really cool puppet warp that we did last video. Image, or to edit, puppet warp. And we're just going to try and, now this thing is going to like drape, right? drape over his his pec, and it's going to kind of drape over his neck, and then it's going to kind of curl around like so, right? So you want it to follow the way that, at least with this particular, you might have different source source material for your Na'vi, but for me, I want it to drape over his torso, so it's gonna be coming from behind his head. So I'm gonna mask out this along here because it's gonna kind of come from behind his neck and then emerge over top. So, and I think I need to just move this whole thing over. Just scoot all of this. Whoa, hello. I'll bring it back. There we go. That's pretty good. We'll hit enter. There we go. And I want to add a shadow, so I'm going to create a new layer, put this underneath. Actually, we can use our shadow layer, right? So with my lasso tool, because this braid will be casting a shadow actually on this side, because our shadows are on the right-hand side of him. So again, my shadow is going to conform to the shape of his body. And so that shadow shape, because it's conforming to the topology of his body, the shadow shape will be a certain shape as well. I think we have a feather. Yeah, that'll be pretty good. We got a feather of 1 pixel, which is pretty good. And again, we've got our shadow adjustment layer. Control M. We want to reveal the shadow effect, so we're going to lighten that area. And maybe that's a little too much. And you know what? That's a little too sharp too. I'm going to do about a 3 pixel feather radius on that. It needs to be a little bit softer than I made it, and not quite as far away. So we're just gonna, and I'm just, it's a bumpy ponytail, and the body is that way, and so we're gonna hit Control M, and we're gonna, where am I? Lighten, yeah, there we go. Bring that up. That's better. See how that already it sort of feels like it's 3-dimensional. And this would probably have another shadow here. Hitting Control H to hide that little selection marquee with the crawling ants. And then I'm going to mask out just that. Oop, I have an active layer. Mask out just this part of the ponytail, because it's actually going to be emerging from behind his neck, and I might kind of take that out too. So it feels like it's sort of wrapping around from behind his neck. There we go. Maybe we'll just kick that in. Ah, there we go. See how that looks right on? I know it looks kind of goofy with it hanging over shoulder, but I want to show that ponytail. And then you've got a tail, and we've got lion tails, and we could do all that. I've got the time. Let's just grab that lion tail. We'll copy that. It's going to have to be blue, so we're going to put it underneath the dude layer here, and we're probably going to have to add. So I'm going to hit Control T, right click on top of the transform gizmo, say flip horizontal, and this is already a little too small. Now remember, the tail is going to be attaching kind of right above his buttocks. It's not going to be attaching from his leg. It's going to be attaching from somewhere right about here on the other side of his body, but it's still a little too small. So, and plus the end of the tail is a little different. It's kind of a tighter little dealy whopper there, and I might just use my warp to kind of make it skinny and kind of skinny that up. There we go. Kind of give it a little bit of an S curve. That's okay. And I'm just going to erase this so it matches. And might want to put a little bit of a feather, a little softer brush because it is kind of hairy, so you don't want a really crisp, hard edge. I'm going to suggest a little bit of fur on that, or hair on the tail. And you know, we could puppet warp that too to give it a more of a S curve. So image or edit, puppet warp. I love the puppet warp, man. It's just brilliant. It works so good. Oh, what'd I do? There we go. Hit enter. And we got to turn that blue, right? So I'm going to add to my blue adjustment layer up here, which is set to color blend mode. I need to add to the mask. So I have opaque pixels with my tail. Control, hold down my control key, hover over the tail layer, and hover over the thumbnail on the tail layer to create an active selection. And then I'm going to come up here to my blue color blend mode layer, select the layer mask for that, and I want to add white into the selection so that it will reveal the blue color effect on top of where I just made my tail. Hit delete, because if I hit delete, it will delete to this white background color here, my color picker, and there it is, it's blue. This needs to go black, so because it's black on their tail. So I'm going to select my black color, go back to my lion's tail, select preserve transparency, and I'm going to make sure my brush is selected and just kind of make that black. There we go. Getting pretty close. Okay, that's enough for now.